Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. Something a little different this week. I'm moving to the continent and we are talking about French whiskey. Now this rather stunning bit of glassware with this beautiful punt of the Swiss Alps, or the French Alps I should say, emblazoned into the bottom of it, is a farm essentially, started in 2009. All the barley is grown locally. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, so apologies. The Hautes Glaces Indigene, which I'm assuming means indigenous or local, a 44% ABV single malt. This is natural coloured single malt. Well, that glass is blue. Let me show you it in a glass. It is natural coloured single malt, matured in ex-cognac, ex-Armagnac, and ex-wine barrels. Doesn't state what type of wine barrels. Tried to find that, but not really been able to find out. But we'll delve into that when we smell it a little bit later. And yeah, this bottle, a very unique looking thing. It's probably one of the prettiest, simplistic bottles of whiskey I've ever seen. You've got this beautiful kind of bluey green tinted glass. You've got that beautiful punt with the French Alps at the bottom of it. You've got this almost recycled hay bale looking cork, which is quite unusual. It is only a 50 centilitre bottle of whiskey. Actually, my head looks huge in this shot, but it is quite a small bottle of whiskey. Well, 50 cl I suppose isn't too unusual these days. A lot of new whiskies are launched in 50 cl. I don't know if it's non-chill filtered. 44% alcohol. It is natural colour. And something I didn't do with the Redwood Empire last week is kind of give you an idea of the body of this thing. It does hold the glass rather nicely. But French whiskey, the last time we reviewed a French whiskey was such a long time ago. It was a very small sample of Bren that I picked up when I was in Brooklyn because I had managed to meet Alison Park at a bar convention there. Wonderful lady. Yeah, so this is my first dabble into French whiskey for quite a long time. And it's a pretty unusual bottle. I've drank a little bit of this neat and I've made some cocktails with it. It does some pretty unusual things. Which some of you may be interested in and some of you may not be. But I will say, if any of you are fans of things like grappa or tequila, or very young kind of like Uni Blanc cognac, like very sort of lesser aged cognacs and armagnacs, you may be quite interested in this. Which obviously speaks to that kind of continental style anyway, with the exception of tequila and mescal. So up on the nose, and something which we always need to talk about is how subjective tasting notes and smelling notes can be. Everything evokes a story within your brain. So, if I say it smells like something and you don't get that, that's totally fine. But with this, I've never had anything which objectively just smells so much of almonds before. It is remarkable how nutty and earthy this thing is. There's some nice fruity notes on it. It's very peachy. It's got a little bit of like orange oil and orange skin. There's a really nice floral element of things like lily of the valley and jasmine. It's actually really jasmine-y. Which is, I think, probably what most people expect from a French distillate of any kind. Like really floral, very approachable. You think about French wine and how floral some of that can be, especially things like Chablis. There are some of those beautiful notes to this. Peaches, green notes. But in the back of it, and I don't know if it's coming from the cognac casks or the Armagnac casks, there's something that's a little chocolatey. I don't want to use the word smoky because it's not smoky. But there is something earthy, which isn't peat and it isn't smoke. But I can't quite put my finger on it. It's almost like super vegetal. It's almost like that kind of salty... I was going to use the word celery, like celery salt. Because for me, celery, when you chop into celery, it always has that really unusual earthy quality to it. Like I can never really put my finger on what celery smells and tastes like, apart from celery. But with celery, I always get this kind of natural, salty smokiness to it. I think it's really unusual. But that's in there with tons of jasmine, those peach notes, there's a little bit of mango, a bit of chocolate. There's all of these nice kind of fresh green pine notes. So it's fresh and clean and feel like it's got a lot of vitality to it, you know. But let's taste it and see where it's at, because again, we don't have any idea how old this stuff is. But let's see. Ooh. I've been on quite a journey in the last year of tequila and rum and mescal. This doesn't have any rum connotations to it at all. But as I mentioned before with tequila, the youthful vibrancy of agave spirits is it gives you such an amazing contrast, and it does go to show that age isn't everything with spirits. It's all about distillation, cask influence, the geography in which it's aged in. And I've had some incredible tequila and mezcal and rum in the last year that I still need to review for this channel. This is almost like a really great summary of continental and Mexican into South American, Central American style of spirits. You think about mezcal, rum, aguardiente, grappa, uni blanc, really unique flavour profile. So we get the youthfulness up front, but it's not aggressive. It still has this pine needle, peachy, jasmine, fresh, bright feel to it. The orange thing's gone. There's like no citrus on the taste at all. It becomes a more herbal, I can't think of the words, like just a very, much like the rye last week, a very direct style of spirit. And again, linking back to that rye video we did last week, this is kind of like a perfect summertime whiskey, even though it has these green, you could maybe call some of it vegetal because of the celery note on the nose. That saltiness is still there at the back of my palate on the finish. This is a fantastic, like, spring, summer product. Because I think if you poured someone this and told them it was single malt, I don't think they would believe you. But in a very, like, intriguing, interesting style. Like, it's incredibly oily. And on the finish, you do get new make spirit. Anyone that's ever tried new make spirit, either straight off a still or in like a little sample jar at a tasting, you do get the backdraft of that. But I don't think, I mean, even though we don't know how old it is, I don't think this distillery is trying to mask how old anything is. Just based on the smell of the thing, it smells quite youthful. It would be nice if we just spent a little bit of that. I did read some information online, but maybe I missed it, but there isn't anything at all on the bottle regarding age. The wine thing, because we mentioned wine barrels before, there are, for me, no influences of red wine at all. So I would assume this is probably some Chardonnay casks. There's a little bit of dryness at the back of it, but it's very welcoming against these salty, peachy, jasmine-y notes. The dryness does just kind of give you a little bit of a break from that. There is a little bit of tannicness on it because I can feel moisture being pulled out of my tongue and my cheeks. So it's slightly tannic. This is pretty interesting. The slight clincher with this is that it's just under £60 a bottle for a 50 centilitre bottle of whiskey. Now, in the modern era of whiskey, that's not necessarily too much of an unusual thing, because if you look at Boutique Whiskey Company, I know a lot of what they do are single barrel runs and they're cash strength, so they tend to be a little bit more expensive, but a lot of them aren't. They do a lot of blends of all kinds of things, which end up being relatively about the same price. But I would say if you're looking for something just genuinely different, and if you have an interest already in agave-based spirits, in some like sugarcane-based spirits, which aren't necessarily old rum, If you're into more youthful things like perhaps rum agricole or just white rum in general, those, I'm talking about really good quality white rum too, things from like Dawley's or Veritas, that sort of stuff. This could very much be up your street. This shot does not help it because it makes it look even smaller. I didn't realise how large my head is, like an egg. But this is really good, and I'm quite a fan, I must say. Since drinking again this last week, the weather's been a little better, like it's very sunny today. And this has been a welcome sort of refresher, to be honest. What score would I give it? I would give this like a solid 8. I think it's a really interesting liquid. It is on the slightly more expensive side, but I think if you're looking to buy something like this, either you're interested in continental spirits and other things that I've already mentioned, or you're just a whiskey drinker with a little bit of spare cash looking for something that you haven't had before. Yes, it's 50 cl. Yes, we don't know how old it is. Those are some big determiners against it. But taste-wise, it is very different and very impressive. So for that alone, I think it deserves an 8. But thank you all for watching. I'm not going to pronounce that again because I can't pronounce it. You've seen the title. And if you are interested, please head over to their website. Please check out Stockist. I think Master Malt and Whisky Exchange are the stockists at the minute. There's a little bit more info on there. But yes, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.